Hello everyone. Welcome to this session hosted by Google Developer Student Club's BITS Pilani Hyderabad campus. I am Sayanket, the lead of GDSC BITS Hyderabad, and we have in this session product designer at Atlassian, Ruchi. She is a BITS Pilani and University of Michigan alumni who initially worked as UI designer at Flipkart and later moved on for her master's studies. She worked at Sumo Logic as a product designer and currently working as product designer too at Atlassian. And she is living currently in Silicon Valley, which is like the dream for most of the developers. And yeah, so I'll just introduce her onto the screen. Hope we have a great session today. And if you have not joined as a member into GDSC, please do so. I'll hover the ticker onto the screen here. And also there is a there is a link tree that I'll be showing in between where you can join our Discord community, where you can have all of the information regarding our further events. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you. I'm Ruchi. Thank you for having me, Sayankit, and the Google Developer
It's a
Student
pleasure.
Club. I'm happy to be here. So, as Ankit mentioned, I studied information systems from BITS Goa. I went on to work as a software engineer, a front-end engineer at Flipkart. And I very quickly realized that software development was not creative enough for me. So I decided to switch paths and come into this new field back then of user experience design. And I want to share a little bit about what the field is about and how, if you're interested, you might become one of us and join the UX design crew. So I have some slides prepared for you. Let me share those. Okay. Okay, so what I did want to talk to you about today was what is UX? What does it look like in the industry? So, what is the process we follow? What are the roles that you might find in the industry? And then also looking ahead, what you can expect from the field of user experience design. So, just a sort of user experience 101, if you might say. But before I start on user experience design, I did want to take a minute to address the difference between UI and UX. And I'm sure you would have seen a lot of these LinkedIn posts saying which is the better UI UX. You might have heard this term UI UX combined together. And it's important to be able to differentiate between these two, right? So consider the example of cornflakes that you get in your mess every morning at breakfast. Right? The cornflakes is the product that you are consuming. The spoon that you use is the user interface or the tool that you're using to interact with this product. But your user experience is a lot more than just that spoon. Your user experience involves whether the cornflakes was given to you in a cup, a bowl, or a glass, whether your milk was hot or cold, whether you're running late for class, right? And so the field of user experience includes a lot more elements to it than just the user interface or the tool that you're designing. And I wanted to focus today's talk on this field of user experience design and what that really means. So, what is user experience design? Right? At the core of it, it is basically how you feel after you interact with a product, right? And that product could be anything. It could be a banana, it could be a t-shirt you wear, it could be the app you use to order Domino's pizza, right? But what user experience means is how the user feels at the end of that interaction. Is that product able to provide a meaningful and relevant experience to its users? And while this definition might seem very heavy and a lot of jargony words, actually, I think all of you know what user experience design is. Let me ask you a quick question. Do you look forward to registering for your courses in ERP? I'm guessing most of you said no, right? And so you already know what a frustrating user experience is. I'm sure that very few of you would be very happy when you log into ERP and you see the screen. Consider the case that you are in your first year and you need to register for your very important mathematics one course, right? When you log into the screen, I can guarantee you that the first time you logged in, you were not able to do it. You were not able to find out where to go, what button to click on, and how to actually successfully register for your course. And there's a few reasons why this screen is frustrating. Right? The first and foremost foundation of a good user experience is reliability. Does the system consistently perform as it is designed to? And unfortunately, the ERP fails this very basic test. It keeps loading and loading and loading, and to the extent where you have to be divided up into batches because the system cannot handle the load of all the students logging in at the same time. Right? Also, the system is not designed for its primary user. The primary user is students who are coming in here to register for a class. However, there is next to zero buttons or links on this page that take you to the page you need to go to find a class, right? So it's not designed for its primary user. It's also unintuitive because it is not designed for its primary user. It has a poor navigation structure, and it does not help prevent errors from the user. Have you ever put all the courses in your cart and only when you go to register at the last time realize that, oh no, you have a clash? That's not good user experience because you have to go back and start the loop all over again. Contrast this with something which is a much more delightful user experience. If you go on Netflix and you keep scrolling for what to watch, after about 6 or 7 down arrow clicks, Netflix displays the screen which says, "Not sure what to watch? Let me play something for you." The reason why this is good user experience is not only does it successfully attain the base foundation of being reliable and performant, every single time the screen is going to show up within a matter of seconds, it also has a clear action on it, right? It knows that the user is somebody who is browsing, who is unable to make up their mind, and so it is directly targeted towards that person. It says specifically that, do you want me to play something? And there's a clear action that you, as that frustrated user, can take. And what this experience does is it goes above and beyond because it not only understands your pain points, it also adds value to your life. It is going to give you a personalized recommendation, which is specific just for you. So if you're watching Friends reruns on end, likely that this play something will play you a Friends episode. Or if, like me, I'm watching Great British Bake Off, it's going to play a Bake Off episode for me. And so it's adding a meaning to your life. And that is what makes it a good user experience. So, how do you go from creating a frustrating user experience to what we say a delightful user experience? How do the people who work at Netflix actually create this experience? There is what we call a double diamond process that design generally follows. The first part of that process is known as discovery. What that means is that you are trying to understand the problem. You are trying to observe your users, see what actions they take, see where they're frustrated, and find their pain points. You then decide which of these pain points is going to give them the maximum satisfaction, which is the biggest pain point that you want to solve. And this first phase is very important for you to understand who your user is, what their goals are, and why are they unable to actually successfully achieve these goals. Then comes on the second diamond, where you're actually using a lot of your creative energy as a designer. So you're saying, okay, if my problem is that somebody is browsing for a particular episode, or browsing on Netflix for a while and they're unable to find something. How can I solve that pain point of them not being able to decide? Right? And so you might come up with 3 or 4 different solutions. You might say, oh, let me suggest something for them and give them a button saying play something. Another option could be, let me show them the episode that their friend watched yesterday and hit like on, and they might like it, right? Or I know this person likes to watch Bollywood movies. Let me suggest the newest Bollywood movie to this person. And so there can be variations of solutions for the same problem. And in this second phase, you're trying to find these alternatives that might solve the pain point. And after you have these alternatives, you take them back to the user. You take them back to the user and you ask them to react to these experiences that you have created to find which of them solves the problem in the best manner. Right? And so this double diamond process is often what you will find in most companies that is followed in the industry today. I know it might seem like a very long process and it might seem like there's a lot that's happening here. But you must know that there is a team that is doing all this work. And so within the industry, in the field of user experience or under a product organization called user experience, there's often 3 roles that exist. The first role is the researcher. I like to think of the researcher like a detective, like Sherlock Holmes. They are often the ones who are responsible for observing users and uncovering user needs. They are the ones who will conduct user interviews, will conduct research studies, will go through data insights to analyze where the users are clicking on, find out heat maps of what the user's eyes are tracking. And they're the ones who figure out how a user uses the system, and also what are the gaps or what are the pain points that exist. The second role is that of a designer. The designer takes all of this rich information created by a researcher, takes the pain points which the researcher has found out, and explores creative ways of addressing these needs. Right. So they are often responsible for finding alternate solutions to those pain points. And finally, we have a newer, more upcoming role known as a UX writer. The UX writer is responsible for defining the documentation, the UI copy, and they're the ones who are responsible for explaining complex concepts to the users before they start using the software. The UX writer often also sets the brand voice and tone. So if you open the Swiggy app and you think, oh, Swiggy and Zomato are being cheeky today, it's the UX writer who's defining that Swiggy or Zomato is a more accessible brand compared to Xerox, right? And so, given that those are the roles that exist, I am a UX designer. So I did want to take you through what a day in my life looks like, just to give you an idea of what a day in the industry looks like. If I were to break my day, I could break it into 4 main parts. The first is focus time. The first 2 to 3 hours of my day are blocked for me to work on design artifacts and for me to be in my creative space. This can include me creating design solutions. This can include creating wireframes or prototypes or creating specs. And this is essentially a creative space or like a studio space that we like to call it at Atlassian. The second half or second section that I have is more collaboration related. This could be either design workshops that I'm conducting within the team to understand what other team members' ideas are, or it could be design critiques that I'm conducting. And this is just to get early feedback on my design work. One thing that I would like to highlight here is that design is not a solo job. You cannot unlike software development, where you can get by being just by yourself, design is a very collaborative job by its nature. You will have to speak with multiple team members, multiple internal stakeholders, talk to the VP of design, talk to your CTO, see what their vision is and how you might bring that vision to life. And so a lot of my job also involves relationship building meetings. So I have a lot of one-on-ones that I set up either with my product manager or my engineering lead or my design lead. And these relationships uh, help me when I ultimately want something from them, because you have to know that design you're in the business of creating ideas and selling those ideas. You want somebody to buy in on your creative solution because you believe that that is actually going to solve a user pain point. Which brings me to my last section of the day. And by this point, I'm pretty tired in my day, which is research. So this is where I get to drop in on any interviews that's going on, any research studies that's going on, and actually hear from a user's perspective around what their thoughts are. And I also get to interact with the user. So if I have any questions for them, this is also a time where I get to voice those questions and hear feedback directly from them. So if all of this looks exciting to you and you might want to say that I want to enter this field, here's what the future looks like. Right? Most of designers today are working on web and mobile. Designers like me often also work in business tools, and that is what the present need for from the design community is. Going forward, there's also a few new formats of humans interacting with computers that we're starting to see. The first of this is voice interfaces. Think of Siri, Alexa, Google Home. How do you converse with these machines to extract the most value out of them while seeming natural? Because speech is something that all of us are so good at. We're all really good at speaking. But machines, not so much. They're still learning. They're basically babies at this point. So, how can we design conversations to feel organic and to feel intuitive to our users while also providing all the feedback necessary? And this is a role that you will see in the industry labeled as a conversation designer. The second upcoming area is extended reality. This includes virtual reality and also augmented reality. And the challenge here is that we haven't really developed an expectation for these sort of designs, right? You and I, we know that if I look at a rectangular box with a text on it on my mobile phone, we know it's a button, right? But we don't really know in an extended world, what can I touch? What can I interact with? For example, in this screenshot, what happens if I touch this mountain? There is no expectation. Do I see an information about the mountain? Do I climb the mountain? Do I see the view from the mountain? We haven't set as a design community an expectation around what happens in these extended reality scenarios. And so that is a very big challenge that's coming up for the community as a whole. And finally, this is slightly closer to reality today, is designing with artificial intelligence or machine learning in mind, knowing that what your user is seeing might not actually be curated or designed by you, but it could be designed by a software. It could be recommendations that are produced by a software. And how do you communicate that to your user that what they're seeing is actually being recommended by a computer and not in an organic growth manner? And so those are the three new areas that are coming up within the field where design does not have an established pattern to fall back on. And so those are some of very exciting and challenging new fields to work in. So if all of that seems interesting to you, there are three key skills that I would say are required of a designer. The first is empathy. Are you able to put yourself in your user's shoes and feel the pain that they feel? And are you able to then creatively use your problem solving techniques to come up with solutions that solve that problem, solve that pain point that you recognized? And finally, are you curious about the world? Are you curious about how people behave, about human psychology and behavior? And are you able to combine these three together to design products that are delightful in the end? Um, yeah, that's about it that I wanted to share with you. If you would like to know more, there's a few resources that I would recommend. If you want to know more, particularly about design and the field and how it came about, I highly recommend Don Norman's Design of Everyday Things. It's a book that talks about doors and how you might push a pull door and be very frustrated. And believe me, as uninteresting as that sounds, it's actually very interesting. If you would like to know about how to create engaging products, I highly suggest Hooked by Nir Eyal. He speaks about attention as a currency and um, how you might be able to design to gain attention. And finally, for any other information that you might need, there is a group known as the Nielsen Norman Group who publish very high quality journals and articles. And so, if you have a specific question about a specific part of design, you can trust what information they give you. So, that's it from me. Uh, Maybe we can go ahead and look at what questions you all are having.
Thank you, Ruchi, for such a beautiful and informative presentation. And thank you for the best example there could have been for a bad user experience, the ERP registration. I think everyone here can relate to that. I see a question in the chat. Devarshi Sangani asks, as a student with engineer background, how do we transition into UI UX domain, which is usually like a design oriented field, and how do we like go about that? How did you find out that you're into it?
Oh, so very funny story, actually. Um, I used to work as a software engineer at Flipkart, right?
Hmm,
And I was building a internal case management tool.
hmm,
And I started going into my users who were using the case management tool and asking them about, oh, what is the new thing that you need? Can you show me how you do your work?
hmm,
And I just started interviewing them without realizing. At this point, I didn't know UX was a field. I didn't even know this
hmm,
word UX, which was bad on me as an engineer. I didn't know what UX was. Um, but I just started going and chatting with them and saying that, okay, you know what, if we are building this software for our internal users, here's ABCD, how we can make it better. um, UX is often very logical, right? Because
hmm,
you and I are exposed to so much user experience. We know how search works because we have used Google search every single
yeah,
day, right? So when you are building a search engine, the easiest thing for you to do is observe somebody else's UX
hmm,
and see how you can draw from that. um, and then my manager said, hey, do you want to be a UX designer? It seems like you like that part more. And I said, oh, I don't know this field. What is this new word you're using? And that's how I discovered UX design. I think to specifically answer how do you transition from engineering to design is when
hmm,
you are engineering a product, start thinking about the experience. Start thinking about, okay, if this is this piece of software that I'm writing, how
hmm,
can I make sure that it is a good experience at the end of the day? The second thing I would say is there's a lot of courses online for you to take. I
hmm,
highly recommend on Coursera, there's a course by Scott Clemmer, which is University of California, San Diego. I believe it's a free course. You can
hmm,
sign up, learn about it. And the good part about the UX design field is that we don't have any entry barriers. We would never ask you for a degree in design. So if you are able to just show me that you can create a search experience, I will get you a job. So yeah.
okay. Um, okay, one more thing. Since UI and UX requires like a lot of creativity and imagination and thinking what's good, what will look good, what is your source of inspiration? Where do you look for those tiny bits which click?
Oh, that's a tough question. Uh, it's often when I am relaxing
Mm.
and using somebody else's product. It's often when I'm,
Okay.
say, for example, the Netflix example, right? I
Mm.
wasn't actively going out and looking for a good user experience. I just happened to see the
Mm.
play something button and think,
Uh,
oh, wow, they actually thought about
mm.
me. I really could
Mm.
not decide today what I wanted to play.
Mm.
Or when you're using a physical product. So
Mm.
I was wrapping my Christmas gifts yesterday and I realized
Mm.
that my wrapping paper has lines drawn on it. So I can
Mm.
cut straight, right? Which is such a small
Yeah.
thing for somebody to think about,
Yeah.
but they thought about me. I can never run my scissors straight on a piece of paper, and I always have some odd bit left. So I guess inspiration comes from anywhere. You
Everywhere.
just
It's
have to
like
be,
the world is your library, something like that. You learn from
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And luckily for us, the field of product design has existed a lot longer than UX design. So
Hmm.
physical products are often unchangeable after they
Hmm.
are created. So they put a lot more thought into their design than software design does.
Yeah. Okay. Um, there's one more question. Weber asks, what does hiring people look for in a portfolio for a UI UX designer?
Yeah. Um, for an entry level UX designer, we
Hmm.
often look at, has this person actually spoken to the users, right?
Okay.
Does this person have an eye for even attempting to understand what somebody
Hmm.
is trying to do? What is the pain point that that person is feeling? So we look for user centeredness around that
Hmm.
person. We don't look at fancy graphics, right? That's not
Okay.
expected. There will
Hmm.
often be a visual language defined within the company that you can rely
Hmm.
on. It's known as a design system. And you will often never have to create that button by yourself. That button has already been created and it's the same button being reused every
Yeah.
page, right? So they do look for, are you able to present 3 or 4 solutions? Have you spoken
Hmm.
to your users? And sort of that process more than the actual
Hmm.
artifact, at least for an entry level positions.
So just like the name suggests, the user's opinion is your most valuable tool there.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, exactly.
We'll have one last question before I'll relieve you. That's Sai Ankit asks, what is an internal case management tool? I think you mentioned it.
Oh, yes. So at Flipkart, if a certain case comes up that says
Hmm.
that a particular seller is a fraudulent seller, then internally we have a team that goes through all of their orders
Hmm.
and either approves that case that, yes, we actually believe the seller is fraudulent and they should be removed,
Hmm.
or here's XYZ data and notes that we have which prove that actually this person is not fraudulent and they should stay on the platform. And so
Hmm.
there's a lot of complex data that shows up there. You see all of their past orders, you see all of their reviews, comments, and all that rich data.
Okay. I think that will be all. Thank you so much for coming and telling us about this new field, which was no one really talks about, and like opening up new areas to explore.
Of
That'll be
course.
all.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Thank you so much. I think that's all.
Before leaving the session, whoever has joined the session through RSVP, please fill in the post-event form that you'll receive via email. And yeah, this is us signing off from JDSC BITS Pilani Hyderabad campus. Hope you had a great session today evening. Thanks.